Welcome to Santa Clarita Weekly, where we cover all things local in Santa Clarita Valley every Saturday morning at 9 on KQRU 107.9. Join hosts Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty as they uncover the latest news, events, sports highlights, and more, keeping you connected and engaged with what matters most in our hometown.
So welcome back for another edition of Santa Clarita Weekly with Tim Haddock and Sage Rafferty. I'm Sage, he's Tim, and you can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock. We're also on YouTube, Instagram, and you can find us online at santaclaritastar.com. So we attended a conservative-led town hall event on Zoom that featured the chair of the Los Angeles County Moms for Liberty and a teacher from Riverside County who was fired for refusing to follow California law concerning transgender students. In sports, the Hart and Saugus baseball teams won their Foothill League openers, and the Saugus softball team is off to a 2-0 start in the Foothill League. The Kings put together a 5-game winning streak, and Quentin Byfield scored a goal in 6 games in a row. The Dodgers opened the season in Tokyo, Japan, by beating the Chicago Cubs twice. Shohei hit his first home run of the season in the second game of the series at Japan. We attended a conservative-led town hall event on Zoom last week. The event featured Karen Frost, the chair of the Los Angeles County Moms for Liberty, who told Republican activists that opponents of Moms for Liberty are, quote, antithetical to core American values, end quote, and accused PTAs in Santa Clarita Valley of being, quote, captured, end quote, by progressive parents pushing for inclusive policies. The event also featured Jessica Tapia, a former teacher fired for refusing to comply with California law protecting LGBTQIA plus children, and she defended her stance as a matter of religious conviction. And I don't include this part in the video, but there was one point when Frost noticed that I, the co-host of Santa Clarita Weekly, was in attendance, and she said she would have to be more careful about what she said about her dealings with local elected school board members. And I guess our show kind of made her nervous being there, but it was a public event, and that's what she was reassured by the organizers. But let's take a look at what happened at that town hall event.
We do have a very vocal, it's a small but very vocal group here in Santa Clarita that doxes us, follows us, shows up at school board meetings, can rally the troops. So we do have that element here in Santa Clarita too. They are strong proponents of, everything that's antithetical to, the core American values.
On Thursday, a far-right town hall exposed the growing push to reshape public education led by Moms for Liberty and conservative activists. The event was hosted by attorney Greg Britton and featured Karen Frost, chair of Los Angeles County Moms for Liberty, and fired teacher Jessica Tapia. They discussed book bans, LGBTQ plus policies, and their efforts to take over school board. Former teacher Jessica Tapia, fired from a school in Riverside County for refusing to follow California laws protecting transgender students, defended her stance as a religious conviction.
And as for the whole pronoun stuff, I had to really look deeper into what that is, and that was essentially asking me to lie to students about who God made them to be. And then of course the lying to parents was just so outlandish to me. So I knew I had a huge decision to make. I actually ended up going off on stress leave for a few months because I didn't know right away what decision to make. I needed to have patience and take time with the Lord to really come to that clear decision and see what he was calling me to do. So at the end of those 3 months of stress leave, he had made it very clear that I was to speak the truth and say, I'm ready to come back to work, but there's a few things you've asked me to do that I cannot do. I won't forego my Christian beliefs to comply with these transgender directives. And I quoted scripture when I emailed my district why I couldn't do those things. And they then held a religious accommodation meeting with me, which honestly felt much more like I'm blanking on the word. basically they were like challenging and questioning me to determine if I was truly a Christian, which was really odd for me, considering that I'm assuming none of them were, since they were so surprised that I would not just follow these directives. And so at the end of that religious accommodation meeting, they did ask one really important question, and they said, is there anything else we need to know about that you can't do in your position as a PE teacher because of your faith? And I said, well, yes, you should probably know now, since I'm in a unique position as a PE teacher. I oversee a girls' locker room, that I won't be allowing any boys in my girls' locker room. And here's what's really crazy. This was over 2 years ago, right? So I've learned a lot more than I knew then. I didn't know at that time that California had a law, AB 1266, that says a student can enter the facility or locker room or sport with that which they identify with. And so I had no idea when I let them know that I was basically telling my school district, I'm not going to be following a California law in my role as a PE teacher. Again, I didn't even know it was a law at that time. But of course, huge issue to them, right? Because they knew the law. And I, as a teacher, just told them I won't be following that law. And anyways, so at the end of that, basically a few days later, I get my termination letter. And mind you, I'm a tenured PE teacher.
Jessica Tapia said that she's keeping tabs on a transgender child who was using the locker room at the school she was fired from.
So no, the policies are absolutely still in place. As a matter of fact, Jurupa Valley JUSD is back in the news as of the last couple of weeks, because they do currently have a boy who is part of the girls track team, varsity girls track, and he is entering the girls private changing spaces. I'm getting several messages from parents. I've even heard from a coach and even a student. And he is #1 in the nation for girls triple jump. So again, Jurupa is back in the news for holding true to those transgender policies.
The event also highlighted Trump's recent executive orders on education, including a policy restricting transgender athletes and a yet-to-be-enforced order banning so-called radical indoctrination. Speakers at the event hoped that by cutting off federal funding to public schools, the Trump administration could force California schools to comply with his executive orders.
Obviously, the federal government is under new management, thank God. And Donald Trump has issued 2 executive orders that are potentially helpful in this regard. One is specifically on the allowing the boys and men into women's and girls sports in their private facilities. And they've actually started enforcing that one. They've moved to cut off federal funds to schools in Maine over the issue. So maybe you can get them to cut off federal funds to the district, and that might get their attention. And the other is it's not operational, it's not actionable, but it is an order ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling, and it's all the relevant federal agencies are to come up with a policy within 90 days of how they can bring that about.
Jessica Tapia praised Rebecca Friedrichs, a well-known anti-union activist. Tapia and Friedrichs have shared a platform before. In September 2023, both spoke at the Rally for Parental Rights in Los Angeles, an event organized by far-right groups and featuring Karen Frost, who debuted the Los Angeles County chapter of Moms for Liberty at the rally. At the rally, Friedrichs criticized teachers' unions in stark terms, calling them the education mafia.
The teaching profession has been hijacked by so-called teacher unions. They call themselves teacher union because that's how they get any kind of attention. That's how they tried to get people to trust them. They are not teachers, and they are not a union in the traditional sense. I call them the education mafia. A friend of mine said I should apologize to the mafia because the mafia loves America. The unions do not. They hate America and they hate you. Today, I want to help you to understand that the people behind everything you're complaining about today, the people behind the corruption in our legislature, it's the unions. The people behind the nasty pornographic books in your school, it's the unions. The people behind critical race theory, it's the unions. The people destroying America, it's the unions. And the teacher unions are the worst of them all. Let's not give them the privilege of being called teacher anymore.
And if you have, I'm sure many of you have heard of Rebecca Fredericks. She, thanks to her court case, teachers no longer have to opt into the corrupt teachers union. We have the freedom to not be a part of that democratic union that pushes and supports woke gender ideologies in the schools. We can choose alternative unions like Christian teachers unions and so forth. But
Frest celebrated conservative gains in local school boards, especially in the Hart district, where she says their new supermajority is pushing policies on parental rights and so-called traditional values.
We have a supermajority on our high school district. It's a 4-to-1 supermajority of conservatives. And I have a very close working relationship with our trustees there. I was just at a meeting earlier, campaigned with them, work with them. I had a meeting yesterday with one of the other trustees. So they really lean into us as a support and advocacy group for them. So it has really changed because a year and a half ago, we had a 3-to-2 liberal to conservative numbers. And so we were able to fight really hard. And now we have a very strong supermajority on our junior and high school and high schools. And then we have the elementary schools. Some of them are great, that are functioning and firing on all cylinders and doing some really great stuff. One of them we're really struggling with, so we're leaning into that one a lot. We have 2 strong school board members that we were able to get elected. We have one that's not quite as strong.
Karen Frost said that local supporters of LGBTQ rights are antithetical to core American values. She also claimed that local leftists were harassing her.
We do have a very vocal, it's a small but very vocal group here in Santa Clarita that doxes us, follows us, shows up at school board meetings, can rally the troops. So we do have that element here in Santa Clarita too. They are strong proponents of everything that's antithetical to the core American values, and seem to just want to destroy rather than build anything up. So yeah, we do have that here in Santa Clarita. Within my chapter, we have people that just, kind of keep an ear on what they are saying and what they're doing. I've chosen, personally, they've attacked me, they've tried to dox me, they've followed me, they say all kinds of things about me. And I just choose to not let any of those arrows land. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know what I stand for. I know what the organization stands for. I know what we're advocating for. So I choose not to listen to it. We only have this much bandwidth. And I just.
Frost also defended removing books from school libraries, part of a national push by Moms for Liberty to ban books featuring LGBTQ plus characters, discussions of race, and other marginalized perspectives from public schools.
We have, the messages that we do not believe in book banning. I believe that all books, even the ones that I don't particularly care for, have a right to exist. But I believe firmly that when my children are in the library at their school, where I'm not there to be able to guide them in their selection process, certain books do not belong on our school campuses. And I will fight like a mother. There may be some books in question that may be appropriate for a 9th through 12th grader. And we can have those conversations about whether certain books, like The Kite Runner that I read. It's a beautiful book that has a very graphic scene, or The Color Purple is another book that is a beautiful book that has a very graphic scene in it. Is that appropriate for 11th and 12th graders? Maybe so. We can have that conversation. Is it appropriate for 5th and 6th graders? Absolutely not. So we just need to use common sense about what materials are in our kids' libraries, give parents the freedom to get what they want for their kids in their own homes, but don't expose my children to materials that are not able to be read aloud in an environment where I cannot help them with the selection process.
Karen Frost said that PTAs in Santa Clarita had been captured by progressive parents and that PTA members are some of Moms for Liberty's strongest opponents.
So we have found that the PTAs in our local community have unfortunately been a little bit captured. So the progressive moms that are really advocating for the books in the libraries and for transitioning their kids, and those are the ones that have joined PTA in our community. So we haven't worked real closely.
The conservative-led town hall highlighted the deepening divide over LGBTQ rights and the role of conservative advocacy groups like Moms for Liberty in shaping education policy in Los Angeles County public schools. The event also underscored the broader national debate over the influence of far-right groups, the push for book bans, and the tension between state laws and federal policy.
All right, so you're listening to KQRU 107.9 FM in Santa Clarita. You can listen to Santa Clarita Weekly on Saturday mornings at 9 and on YouTube, Instagram, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So, Tim, talk to us about local sports.
Okay, so the Foothill League baseball and softball seasons have started, and the Hart baseball team is off to a good start. The Hart baseball team won the CIF Southern Section Division II Championship last year, and they've kind of picked up where they left off from last season, beating Valencia 2-1 in 10 innings in a pitcher's duel in the Foothill League opener. Hart starter Tristan Purfoy gave up 1 run and 1 hit in 8 innings and struck out 8. Hart took a 1-0 lead in the second inning, but Valencia tied the score 1-1 in the 6th inning. Valencia starter Noah Jaquez went 5 1/3 innings, giving up 1 run on 2 hits and struck out 4. Hart followed its win over Valencia with the 13-3 loss to Maranatha. Hart plays Agoura next. The Saugus baseball team is keeping pace with Hart. They won their first Foothill League game over Canyon 16-4. Saugus is 4-1 in its last 5 games with wins over San Marcos, Tustin, and North Hollywood. Saugus plays Valencia next in the Foothill League. The West Ranch baseball team is 1-1 after 2 Foothill League games. West Ranch lost to Castaic 6-4 in their Foothill League opener, but rebounded for a 9-1 win in their second game against Castaic. West Ranch snapped a 5-game losing streak with the win over Castaic. Next up for West Ranch in the Foothill League is Canyon. The Castaic baseball team is 1-1 also after 2 Foothill League games, splitting both games with West Ranch, and they're 4-1 in their last 5 games. Castaic shut out Santa Paula 4-0 and Flint Ridge Prep 10-0 and beat Taft 10-3. Castaic plays Golden Valley in its next Foothill League game. The Valencia baseball team is 0-1 to start the Foothill League season. After losing to Hart, Valencia followed with the 4-0 shutout over Agoura. The Vikings play Saugus in their next Foothill League game. The Canyon baseball team is 0-1 after losing its first Foothill League game to Saugus. Burroughs shut out Canyon in their next game 13-0. Canyon plays West Ranch in its next Foothill League game. And the Golden Valley baseball team plays Castaic in its Foothill League opener. Golden Valley is 4-1 in their last 5 games and is coming off an extra inning 5-4 win over Lancaster. The Saugus softball team is 2-0 in their first Foothill League games, and they've been destroying teams. They've been kind of impressive in their first 2 games in the Foothill League. The Saugus softball team started the Foothill League with shutouts over Canyon and Valencia. Saugus shut out Canyon 12-0 in 6 innings and followed with a 13-0 shutout in 4 innings over Valencia. Amelia Johnson drove in 2 runs and had a triple against Canyon. She hit a home run and drove in 2 runs against Valencia. Haley Lankford hit a grand slam, and Brianna Garcia went 2 for 4 and drove in 2 runs against Canyon. Bree Coe hit 2 home runs and drove in 6 runs against Valencia. Saugus plays West Ranch next in the Foothill League. The Castaic softball team won its Foothill League opener against Golden Valley 8-2. Castaic took a 3-0 lead in the first inning and was up 6-1 in the 4th inning. Castaic added 2 more runs in the 5th inning to take a 8-2 lead. Next up for Castaic in the Foothill League is Valencia. West Ranch is 1-0 in the Foothill League after beating Canyon 3-2. West Ranch scored 3 runs in the 6th inning to take the lead 3-1. Canyon scored a run in the 7th inning to cut the lead to 3-2, but West Ranch held on to win their Foothill League opener. West Ranch plays Saugus next. The Golden Valley softball team lost and is 0-1 after losing its Foothill League opener to Castaic. Golden Valley plays Hart next in the Foothill League. The Valencia softball team is 0-1 after losing its Foothill League opener to Saugus. Valencia plays Castaic next in the Foothill League. And Canyon lost its first two Foothill League games to Saugus and West Ranch. The Canyon softball team plays Verdugo Hills before its next Foothill League game against Golden Valley. The Hart softball team opened Foothill League play against Valencia and plays Golden Valley next. In the NHL, we're going to the NHL now, where the Kings were kind of on a hot streak for a while. They won 5 games in a row, put together a 5-game winning streak, and Quentin Byfield scored a goal in 6 games in a row before heading on the road to play the Minnesota Wild. The Kings ended their 5-game winning streak with a 1-0 overtime shutout against the Nashville Predators at Crypto.com Arena. Byfield scored the game-winning goal in overtime. He scored a goal in 6 games in a row, including all 3 games of their last homestand. The Kings shut out the visiting Washington Capitals 3-0 and also beat the New York Islanders 4-1. Byfield scored a goal in each of those games, too. Kings goalie Darcy Kemper made 24 saves against the Predators and notched his 2nd shutout in a row. He also shut out the Capitals and has 4 shutouts this season. But the Kings' winning streak and Byfield's goal streak came to an end against the Wild in Minnesota. The Kings lost 3-1. Adrian Kempe scored the lone goal of the game for the Kings. In the first period, it was his team-leading 28th goal of the season and gave the Kings a 1-0 lead in the first period. Kings coach Jim Miller talked about how his team played against the Wild after winning 5 games in a row.
Yeah, we got a little sloppy in the third. Second period, I thought we played really well. Good period. And probably had enough chances to come out with the lead in the third. I think that was probably important. Gustafson played very well, I thought. I don't know if anybody else thought that. We probably still turned up way too many chances where we had a chance to shoot with traffic. Q finally got to the net. We hit him twice in the leg when he was in front of the Gustafson. So, one of those nights where when we finally put it there, we didn't get anything. But yeah, it's a game. It's a winnable game. It's a mistake. It's execution on their side at the end.
Byfield has 17 goals and 40 points this season. The Kings travel to Chicago for a game against the Blackhawks before returning to LA for a 3-game homestand. I'm going to hand it over to Sage to talk about the Dodgers.
Okay. All right, so thank you, Tim. Let's talk about Major League Baseball. Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto gave the fans at the Tokyo Dome in Japan plenty to cheer about in the season opener against the Cubs. Ohtani had 2 hits and scored 2 runs in the Dodgers' 4-1 win over the Cubs. Yamamoto pitched 5 innings, giving up 1 run and struck out 4 to win the season opener. The Dodgers scored 3 runs in the 5th inning, highlighted by The Dodgers scored 3 runs in the 5th inning, highlighted by an RBI signal by Will Smith to take a 3-1 lead. The Dodgers tacked on a run in the 9th inning. New Dodgers closer Tanner Scott pitched a scoreless 9th inning for his first save. In the second game, the Dodgers hit 3 home runs and beat the Cubs 6-3. Ohtani hit a solo home run, his first of the season, and Tommy Edman hit a solo home run. Kiki Hernandez added a 2-run home run. Dodgers starter Roki Sasaki made his major league debut and had a rough outing. He gave up a run and walked 5 batters in 3 innings. But the 5 Dodger relievers held the Cubs in check over the final 6 innings. Landon Knack pitched 2 innings and earned the win. Alex Vesia pitched a scoreless 9th inning to earn his first save. The Dodgers won the 2 games despite missing 2 All-Stars from the lineup. Mookie Betts missed both games and flew back to Los Angeles with the virus. He reportedly lost 15 pounds, according to manager Dave Roberts, and was sent home to recover and get ready for the home opener against the Detroit Tigers. Freddie Freeman missed the opener and the second game against the Cubs with sore ribs. The Dodgers played the Angels in the Freeway Series before the home opener against the Detroit Tigers on March 27th. So, Tim, Ohtani's presence at the game in Japan has been described as a royal visit. So how does that portrayal compare to the typical reception of a major league player in their home country?
Yeah, so it wasn't just Ohtani. I mean, Ohtani is obviously the biggest star and the biggest star from Japan playing in the major leagues, but the Dodgers have, a couple Japanese players on their team, Yamamoto and Sasaki, are also big stars. They were big stars in Japan before coming over to the Dodgers. So it wasn't all Ohtani. I mean, he got the biggest reception, and he seems to be the biggest star not only on the Dodgers but in Japan as well. But the whole country, all the fans at the games this weekend or these last couple of days, they were there for all the Japanese pitchers, and the Cubs have a couple Japanese pitchers on their team as well. So it wasn't just all for Ohtani. They were able to celebrate a lot of players from the Japanese leagues who are now stars and playing in the major leagues for the Cubs and for the Dodgers. So, Ohtani did get a big reception, and it was kind of like Return of the King, if you will, if you want to put it that way. But the reception that Ohtani got was shared by all the players from Japan who were playing in the games.
Yeah. So I have to ask about the opening. So this was a cultural event in Japan. So there was sort of this epic action hero music and a dramatic video presentation. There are a lot of people on social media, a lot of Americans asking, why don't we have Pikachu running around in Dodgers jerseys in our games? How does it compare to the typical Major League Baseball game opening here in the United States?
Right. No, yeah. I mean, the baseball culture, the baseball fan culture in Japan is much different than it is in America. And we saw that a little in the last couple of games where they do make a little bit of a production out of the pre-game ceremonies, and they mix in a lot of their own Japanese culture into the games before the games and with the players. And they do a lot of different things that you don't see at an American baseball and Major League Baseball. But there's also other little differences as well. I was listening to some of the broadcasters talking about how quiet the fans get when the pitchers are pitching. And it's like a respect thing. In American baseball stadiums, the crowds are cheering and yelling and screaming and God knows what. I mean, they're just using all types of bad language and insults and heckling, and they'll throw anything at the opposing team. As in Japan, it's very respectful. It's very quiet. It's very dignified, and they don't try to distract the other team's pitcher. They just give him the space to do their job. And then when something big happens, when something exciting happens in the game, they cheer. But when nothing is going on, they said they're very quiet and they're very respectful of the other team. Another difference that I see in Japanese baseball is they do have like real cheerleaders, like football cheerleaders, but they have baseball cheerleaders. They get on the dugout, they do dances, they have routines, and you don't see that. You don't see that at Dodger games or at baseball games. But we have our own traditions too. We've had some different types of mascots that tend to take over a game as well. I remember a long time ago, the Padres used to have a mascot called the San Diego Chicken. There was a guy running around in a chicken suit who would taunt the other players and try to get in fights with the other team's manager. And, he was just causing trouble throughout the game. And, we don't see that too much anymore, but a couple of teams still have a mascot and they still have different types of things going on between innings and trying to disrupt the other team and just make fun of them or just get under their skin. So, we do have a little bit of that, but in Japan, it's a whole different type of culture for baseball. And they treat the teams, they treat the games much differently than we do here in America.
Yeah. I wonder if as Americans are watching Japanese baseball games, it will change some of the traditions here in the United States.
We may see it. That may happen.
Yeah. So that's our show. So tune in next week for more discussions about the news from Santa Clarita. You can listen to us on the radio at KQRU 107.9 FM and at 9 on Saturday mornings. You can also watch us on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and listen to us on SantaClaritaStar.com, wherever you listen to podcasts. So leave us a comment and be sure to subscribe to Santa Clarita Weekly online. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Santa Clarita Weekly. You can watch the show on Santa Clarita Star's YouTube channel and Facebook page, as well as listen in on the radio at KQ.